شرفه حقوق يعني عيد عدوى هدن عدوها قبيشه وهليلة دينه وروين كومانو عدو هيرانيسي علنكاك واهبو شرفه حقوق يعني عيد عدوى هدن عدوها قبيشه وهليلة دينه.
So it's a sort of immersion in all positive things about being a Somali, but at the same time comparing it to what we do in this country, so that people will learn a little bit about the wider aspects of the origins of this country, because the majority of Somalis, I mean, we have Somalis come here, they lived in the UK 30 years, they've never left London, Bristol, Birmingham, Manchester or somewhere like that. They may have gone down the motorway. They've never set foot in the countryside, and the majority of the country is the countryside. So,
and a lot of our traditions and things come from the rural.
Yeah, as well.
You know, from the countryside in the same way. Somalia.
So it's a way to help with assist people to understand more about where they live. So it's that type of hands-on approach to essentially inspiring people to understand more about Somali culture and to be proud of that, and not to simply associate the word Somali with all the negative things that one does in this country. You know, you put Somali into Google and what do you get? Piracy, Al-Shabaab, starvation, anarchy, no government, gangs, you know, all of it, terrorism, all of these things. Well, to a lesser extent, those issues are true, but they are not the whole part of the story. It's a very small percentage. So what we are trying to do here is to actually fill in the missing part of the story and to give Somalis of your generation and younger something about their identity that they should be proud of. And we find, I would say, virtually every young Somali that comes here comes with the attitude of, why the hell do I need to be a Somali? You know, I don't want to be a Somali, even we get. That's in an extreme case. What is there about being a Somali that I should be proud of? By the time they leave, they've got a million reasons to be proud. And many of them say, well, I'm going to make more effort to find out more about where I come from, to even go back to where I come from, and if I'm able to go back, not to just stay in the town, but to actually go out and look a bit further afield and just discover more. And that's what we want. We want people to actually realise that there's so many amazing things about the Somali people. But yeah, there are issues, there are problems. We're not trying to deny that. This is not a place to, you know, to cover up the dirty laundry. Not at all. It's a question of putting it all in perspective, in balance, and showing the sophistication of the technique. You know, there's often this perception that rural life in Africa is in some way primitive. The truth could not be further from that. You know, these people are highly sophisticated. They're extremely clever, and they are the origin of all Somalis. I mean, you only have to go back. I don't know about your particular history, but the majority of Somalis who come here, you sometimes only need to go back one generation, and you find that the parents are born in the interior. If you come from Mogadishu, you may have to go back 2 or 3, but anywhere from the centre or north of the Somali region, and I include the Ogaden, we don't talk about political boundaries in Degmo. As far as we're concerned, we talk about the Somali region. That's the part of Africa which can include Kenya, Djibouti, Ethiopia,
Just the whole of it.
the whole area where Somalis live, because broadly speaking, there are more similarities than there are differences between the Somalis that inhabit that area. And what we're talking about are the rural areas, the places which lend the majority of the sense of identity that Somalis have, the things that they have in common. And so this is just one example of a practical way of showing the things, the origins, the history, the heritage. We also have a slideshow that lasts about an hour and a half, which we tend to do on the first evening. And those are all pictures from the Somali region. And they're pictures that the majority of people would never have seen. They are often familiar to the older generation, And this is another thing that we try and do. If we get Somalis of different generations together, you get an opportunity for the older generation to actually reminisce and to draw on all of the knowledge they have and pass it to the next generation. So that's another thing which works very successfully. And especially amongst younger children growing up here, and you probably fall into that category, your lives do not, the problems that you face growing up in this country are very different to the problems of the previous generation who arrived here. And often there's a lack of understanding. The older generation don't understand the issues that you face, and often the younger generation don't understand the issues that the older generation face. So by coming to Degmo, we try to mediate and give them something to share, so a new experience they can both share, but also create an opportunity where they can actually begin to to talk to each other, and for the older generation to pass on a lot of extremely valuable knowledge that they've got, and which will die when they die. Because this is the other aspect to Somali culture, that being an oral society, none of this is written down. So, it goes very quickly, it vanishes. And when you visit the Somali region now, it's quite shocking to see how, compared to 20 years ago, so much of the knowledge is going. As people migrate to the towns, as they migrate around the world, as they abandon the traditional way of life, there is nothing left. There is no record left. There's no tangible evidence, and this is extremely serious for future generations. That will be left without any connection to their past. And what's astounding is how quickly it's happened. I mean, it happens in all societies that progress and change happen, but usually it happens at a slower rate. But in the case of the Somali region, because of civil unrest, because of mass migration, the whole process has been accelerated. And now, because of environmental concerns, deforestation, environmental change, a whole lot of issues like that are affecting the viability of traditional life. And so, it's important to try and impress upon people, look, hang on to what you've got. In the future, it's going to be even more scarce and valuable.
You were like the father that I never knew. You were like my mother, the one that left tattooed.